Well, it certainly happened in and around our group, and we had people who went off to join the Communist Party in the 30s and 40s and then backed out of the Communist Party. We had people who were involving in different revolutionary things. A lot of hippies read science fiction. A lot of rock musicians read science fiction. The reason I read science fiction, A, it was fascinating, but also I discovered by the late 1960s that there was a culture of science fiction that could take you into its bosom, so to speak, and encourage you and give you a place to voice your opinions. Science fiction conventions have been going on since 1939, with a hiatus for the war. But after the war, they came back and they started proliferating, and they became small conventions, world cons, large conventions. And the convention idea was a place to get together and basically a secular church to meet at. And you could be on panels no matter what your age was. You could sit and discuss topics, all different kinds of topics. You could express your enthusiasms. You could do artwork and put it onto an art show. So in 1968, a bunch of us from San Diego, my friend Scott Shaw and David Clark and I, went up to San Francisco, to Oakland actually, and went to the Claremont Hotel where they were having Baycon. So there we are, 16 years old,
Wow.
and we've come up on the bus, and we wander into this hotel, which is in kind of a rundown condition at that point. It becomes a beautiful hotel later. But it's fun. We walk into the lobby, and over here is John W. Campbell, Jr., the editor of Astounding Analog, which is one of my favorite magazines. You can go talk to him. He and his wife are sitting there in the lobby. Over here is Lynn Carter, who is editing the adult fantasy series for Ballantine, which is producing the kind of revolution that's following on from the success of Tolkien as a paperback, introducing us to all the fantasy writers from the 20th century and the 19th century that we knew nothing about, and even earlier in some cases. And over here you have John Brunner with his new novel, Stand on Zanzibar, which is this stunning vision of life in the year 2012, 2010. We've got all this ferment going on, and then Star Trek is there. Bringing on, we've managed to help them get their third season going. B. Joe Trimble, who was one of the art show creators, has done this and has managed to turn them into the force, help to turn them into the force they will soon become, because now they can be serialized. They can be spread around on networks after they go away. All of that is happening all at once. And it's utterly dizzying. So over here is comics fandom, there's Edgar Rice Burroughs fandom, there's hard science fiction fandom, there's horror fandom, H.P. Lovecraft, Clark Ashton Smith. All of it. It's like the entire 20th century is meeting here, where you are no longer a teenager, you are no longer 70 or 80 years old. We're meeting fans who were at the science fiction convention in 1939, who are older than us, probably my age now. We're going to the ice cream parlor and hanging out with Ray Bradbury, who we already know because he likes to hang out with young people, and he's introduced us around to each other. We're meeting up with the special effects people who are going to be changing the nature of movies in the next 20 years. We're all 16, 17 years old, but we fit right in. There is no age criterion here. They just want to know what you're thinking. And if they want to help you figure out what you're thinking, they'll do that. They'll put, hey, Edgar Rice Burroughs is great, they'll say, or come over here and read this character, or we'll sell you these books over here. These are first editions, classic science fiction. Paperbacks are coming out. Wow. It was a real heyday. And it was the heyday of the book, the paperback book, which had been started back in the 1940s, was now prospering mightily. Not quite as good as they were in the 50s, but still quite good. And it was just a renaissance for me. It was like being dropped in the middle of Italy in the Renaissance. And all of these artists are gathering in the coffee shop or in the bar or whatever, talking about what they're doing, and they're happy to talk to you. And they're happy. So you can meet science fiction writers. You can meet your favorite science fiction writer, and they're the same age you are. Even Jack Williamson, who I'm not sure was there, but Jack Williamson, when I last saw him, was 95 years old. He was 17 in his head.
Wow.
He regarded us as peers. And how amazing is that? There is no age snobbery among most of these people. There is just this feeling of enthusiasm and of shared experiences. What's the shared experience? The imagination. We can argue about it. We can argue bitterly about it. Some of these people were bitter enemies because fantasy is better than science fiction, and I can prove it. And all that fan feud stuff went on back and forth, and it was a lovely war of ideas. All in 1968, and then from that point on, we said, we want to do this more. So our San Diego group got together and started putting together publishing fanzines, and creating letter columns and sending artwork off to other fanzines and participating in the fanish community, going to art shows, going to other conventions. Then a group of us got together with a group of older guys in San Diego who ran bookstores or were comic book fans, and we said, let's put on our own convention. And one of our older mentors said, how about a comic book convention? And so a bunch of us got together, about 10 or 11 of us, and we put together San Diego Comic-Con in 1969-70.
Wow.
And that became 200 people in the first year. But Ray Bradbury showed up, Jack Kirby showed up, a lot of artists and writers showed up. We had a ball. We just thoroughly enjoyed it, and it kept going, and it kept getting bigger. And it kept big enough that finally San Diego said, we got to kick these people out because there's a bunch of weird comic book fans running around downtown. And at that point, the Hotel Association said, wait a minute, you want to kick out 10,000 room nights in the middle of summer? And now it's 150,000 room nights.
Wow.
And that's how all that began, was because of a bunch of crazy young kids, 16, 17, 18 years old. Most of us couldn't drive. A couple of mentors who helped us out with our ideas and their own experience of running conventions. A little bit of economic help. Ray Bradbury being enthusiastic because he loved San Diego and loved hanging out with us. And it reminded him of his early days in fandom. And Jack Kirby, and it just took off.